Hey everyone, welcome to another Good e-Reader review video. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Today we're looking at the new Asus ZenFone 3. This is the ZE5 model. It just came out, and today we're going to give you a sense of the hardware, what makes it unique compared to other smartphones in the market, and show you some of the things that this phone is capable of.
So it looks pretty plain on the front, but it is about what this thing can do, not what it looks like. There's a back button, a home button, a apps button. It's a 5.2-inch screen. And
the resolution is 1920 by 1080,
That's
so you'll
huge.
be able to get some good 1080 videos.
We have an 8-megapixel front-facing camera. You have light sensors and everything too. Earpiece. You have the microphone on the bottom there. You have the speaker. You also have a USB-C, which is reversible. On the left, you have a very deep tray because it is dual SIM. On the top, you have the camera, microphone. For the back, you have a 3.5mm headphone jack, volume up and down, power button, and a 16-megapixel rear-facing camera, light flash package, fingerprint sensor, all that good stuff.
In terms of overall specs, this phone's pretty sweet. It features a Snapdragon 625 processor, which is an octa-core 2.0 gigahertz. It has 64 gigs of internal memory. It has 4 gigs of RAM. This phone is flagship.
Stacked.
Yeah, so you could do a whole lot worse,
yeah,
is basically what we're saying. Peter, give us a tour of the Android 6.0 experience.
So it is pretty much Android, except it is running 6 now, so a lot of the things are different with your drop downs, your app screen, and when you go into long presses and you go into this kind of manage your home with wallpapers and stuff. This is all changed from the previous Android version, so
it looks a lot better than previous versions of Android.
It's a little poppier and stuff, and this is more populated. When you pulled it down before, there'd be a small kind of half screen of settings, and now the entire screen is designated to settings, and a little space at the bottom for you to put your finger in to slide it back up.
So of course you will have some stock Asus
preloaded stuff, yeah.
Zen Circle, ZenFone, ZenTalk, etc. There's actually like a folder on the main screen full of like other Asus apps. So Asus apps are kind of spread all along this kind of device, but you can remove them.
Yes.
So you're not sort of stuck with a ton of bloatware that's impossible to remove. As we said during the 360, the rear-facing camera is fairly amazing. 16
megapixels rear-facing camera.
So here's some photos that we just took to show off the camera. It looks really good.
It does look really good, and this was just with no different applications. I just touched it, so it spot focused onto there, and then that's what we ended up with. It's actually quite nice. And then the third photo we took of a plant.
Yeah, a lot of companies, 8-megapixel rear-facing cameras, sometimes 12. This kind of really kicks it up a notch.
It does, it blows it away.
Yeah.
So we're Good e-Reader, we have to throw in some e-reading, of course. So this is Google Play Books. You can see there's a page turn animation. It's like you're pushing the page up. You can tap the center and it brings up the little A buttons that allow you to change the fonts, the text size, line spacing, justified text, and a couple other settings for sepia, black, night lights, and brightness settings. So you have a decent amount of settings here to work with. You also have translate, different types of highlights, and of course making notes and stuff, but it just brings up the conventional keyboard. So it's obviously very
now that
snappy.
we're looking at the keyboard, it's
quite nice. You get an extra row for letters, extra row for numbers up top, and all your secondary and tertiary keys are right here. So quite nice keyboard, really snappy, of course. It doesn't really take too much to run, you know, e-reading apps.
So this is Comixology, and a phone with this high resolution looks great for comics. And if you look at it like this, you can of course pinch and zoom to read text that would otherwise be kind of small, but you could also double tap to go to the guided view, and you get the full screen experience. Text obviously is much more readable now that we're on guided view in landscape mode, because you saw in portrait mode we kind of had to zoom in, but with this, it's pretty easy. So certain apps, of course, look better in portrait, otherwise some look better in landscape mode. It depends what functionality you're employing. So this is Manga Rock, and we have here probably one of my favorite webtoons called The Gamer. It's done by a Korean artist, and I mean, with a phone like this isn't showing off the tremendous resolution, of course, but you don't have to pinch and zoom to, you know, isolate this specific text.
Right.
And you can, we got it just naturally turning it like this, but you can turn it like a standard manga where you're turning pages like this, or you could like turn on just like a full infinite scroll and read like all the issues like that, like a real webtoon. But a phone with a 5.2 inch screen is really capable of, as you've seen, manga, ebooks, a ton of content.
Yeah.
And that you don't necessarily have to keep on pinching and zooming. Everything looks full and vibrant. So this is the Audible app, and if you haven't really used it recently, Audible has just released a new thing called Channels, and it's actually available for free for anyone that has Amazon Prime membership. Channels is a combination of podcasts, unique stories, short form. It's the type of thing where it'll take you about 60 minutes for like a full podcast, whether it's a themed or whether it's by one of your favorite podcasters and such. But there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of like original content that Audible's putting on here, and it's all for free. You don't actually have to sign up for Audible to actually listen to any of this. A standard audiobook takes about like 12 hours or so to get through, but everyone has time in their day for like a podcast or something like even like a little bit shorter. Let's take a look at the storefront here.
Chapter 4. Kelsey Castle, Summit Lake, March 5th, 2012. Day 1. High on a bluff in the mountains of Summit Lake, Kelsey Castle watched as the rising sun burned the horizon red and turned the wispy clouds into cherry cotton candy torn across the sky. Farther off the horizon,
you know, what's impressing me about this phone is that there's a single speaker on the bottom, but it projects a lot of sound.
It does.
We've reviewed a lot of tablets if you're a regular watcher of our YouTube channel, and even tablets with two speakers usually don't have this type of clarity or overall loudness of sound. You know, when you turn devices up to the max, you often get kind of garbled and kind of clipping, and sometimes it starts, you know, you start kind of getting like audio artifacting, so to speak. But put it to the max. I mean, I'm actually pretty impressed.
It's good. It must be a big speaker in there because it's not stereo, but it is loud.
Right. So let's get our thoughts about this device. I mean, it's running a modern version of Android. It has super high specs. I'm pretty impressed with the octa-core, with the 64 gigs of internal storage, the amount of RAM, the front-facing camera. It's rare that you see something that's like 8 megapixels